Anahita Joon Tehrani is an author, mentor, and speaker. Born during the Islamic Revolution of Iran, Anahita is a modern-day priestess, healer, and medicine woman. I really feel like Anahita, when I'm with her, she is the embodiment of feminine. And I yearn to access that feminine space inside myself daily. So let me read her bio. Anahita Joon Tehrani, is that how you say it? Is an author, mentor, and speaker. Born during the Islamic Revolution of Iran, Anahita is a modern-day priestess, there you go, healer, and medicine woman. Anahita's work is the culmination of 25 years of intensive study with mystic masters and shamans, social research, as well as over 10 years of her own teaching and facilitation. As a feminine leadership and empowerment coach, Anahita activates the sacred leadership of women who are ready to awaken and unleash the force of nature within. I love that. Anahita is a credentialed coach and spiritual counselor and creator of the beautiful self and embodied essence. Welcome.
Thank you.
Do you need this?
I'm feeling honored in this moment to be here. And I have notes because I'm telling my truth, but it's not just my truth. I'm not just telling it for me. So I felt it was critical to hit some of the main points. I heard a statement recently that really hit home for me. And the statement was, freedom is the ultimate privilege. And yet it is the hardest to learn how to use. Now that may or may not land for you, but the reason that it landed for me is because at 14, I moved to the US after having lived in the Islamic Republic of Iran for the first 14 years of my life. And after getting here, I realized that here the external oppression was gone, and I didn't know how to be free. So just to give you a little bit of background, I think we are all familiar with the oppression that happens in the Middle East, but growing up, it was very normal to step outside as a young girl and literally have men with guns pointing their guns in my face because my hair covering had come off a little bit. So it wasn't safe at all. And also, just to give you a sense of how deeply this oppression ran, because everyone was oppressed, but more so the women, and more so everything that represented the feminine. And so, to this day, the sound of a woman singing is illegal because it is considered evil in that it will seduce men into acts of evil. So that was the culture. The women had no voice and no power. But they had something else. They had their looks. And they could commoditize on their looks. They could secure a future, they could secure a husband, they could provide for their children. And I just happened to be born into a family in Iran where all the women had blue eyes, green eyes, and light hair, which is really rare, and also made the women in my family just sort of be able to have their pick, right? And my grandmother was not happy when I was born. I was the first one to come out with black hair, and I came out with a lot of black hair. And she was a wounded woman. I understand now she was a wounded woman who had her own traumas and her own fear, and this, their looks was kind of like what they'd had to trade on, how she secured the future for her daughters, my mother and my aunts. And as a young girl, I heard that my grandmother had said, "She looks like a turd. Why don't you just flush her down the toilet?" So just like the depth of her pain, of what was available to her and the fear that she had now. What was going to become of me if I looked like all the other women and we had no voice and we had no power? So I learned from a very young age that beauty had one face and it was not mine. So here I am, I'm living in America where, we have all these freedoms, and I had grown up watching American movies that got delivered to our house through the black market, and so I had dreamed of having the freedom of living in America, and here I was, and I had no idea what to do with it. I could not express myself. I didn't feel safe to, first of all, in any way. I didn't feel safe, and I certainly didn't feel beautiful in any way. I wasn't beautiful, not according to my family, and not according to the white suburbs of Frederick, Maryland, where I was the immigrant kid who just moved from Iran, and all the awkward stuff. So, how does this all translate to a woman who is seeking freedom? I did use my freedom. I used it to make myself beautiful. And what that looked like straightening my curls and making myself blonde. Can you imagine? I mean, the inauthenticity, the certainty that I must be so wrong to go that far from what I really am. And I actually did it while living here and going to Naropa. That was 20 years ago that I did that. So the problem is that I was still me. I was still the girl who was born in the Middle East, had grown up in the war. I was still intense. I'm still intense. I think it's you can tell. But that's not what people were getting. I was pretending to be the carefree blonde girl, the girl next door that I thought I should be. And so this created a lot of confusion. It created confusion for myself, and it created confusion for others who came in thinking they were getting one thing and they got something totally different. And this just kept playing itself out. I went to college, I got a 9-to-5 job, I was very unhappy. I cried every day. It was a good job, but it's not in my DNA to work a 9-to-5 job. So I searched outside of myself for validation, for direction. Where is the place where I can stick my identity that will be acceptable, that's deemed right, appropriate, mild enough, which is not how I experienced myself, by the external world. And the most pain was caused from that because it just really robbed me of my power in every sense of the word. So, for 6 years, I worked as an exotic dancer in a strip club, of all places, across from the US Pentagon. And in all honesty, it was some of the best time of my life. It was my liberation. I was guided to be there. I was awake when I arrived there. And every time that I walked into that place, I was sending that freedom back to my ancestors, and I knew. And it wasn't just, clothes that were coming off. There were shackles that were coming off every day. I mean, I couldn't feel the sunlight on my legs growing up in Iran. Except one thing, it was my secret. I was dancing, and I was also teaching yoga during the day and deepening my spiritual studies, and this was my secret life. Because I was trying to figure it out. I was trying to sort myself out. Who am I? Am I this devoted woman? Am I this being who's loved God and everything's sacred my whole life? Or am I this wild, sexual, sensual being that was never any permission for in anything that I had been shown at all? And I was not going to tell the world until I could sort it out and present it in a pretty package that was acceptable and safe and non-threatening. And it wasn't until I got it in my bones. One day I just got it in my bones. Yeah, I'm both of those things. And I'm everything else. And embracing all of that, that was the key to the freedom that I had been trying to get from the outside. And also I got that I really had to learn how to embrace all the parts of myself that I had rejected. All of it. And so it was time I was complete with dancing. I stopped dancing. And there was a time that I was just teaching yoga, and I had stopped, and I was lost. I was really lost. I was so afraid that I had completely ruined my life by doing that for 6 years, even though I'd been studying and cultivating other aspects. And even though I had been guided, there was nothing. I was in the space. And, oh shit. I mean, what did I do here? And I didn't know how to apply. I didn't know how to apply that piece of taking the pieces that I had rejected and embracing them and turning them into something that was for me and a fuel. And what brought it all together is the love of Mother Nature. You know, I got to experience her love in the way that I'm created. And I had experienced, I had been studying the goddess for many years. That's sort of what led me to the club. But this was something different. This was something I had never experienced before. And this is when I experienced essence and learned about essence, which is, to me, the most essential part of each of us. Unique, completely unique, soul signature that can't be duplicated. And it's fully on purpose. It's on purpose to empower us, to serve us, to allow us to fulfill our missions here. And so, my curly black hair. I learned to see my curly black hair as frequency, as vibration, as something that was free from story, something that was free from those woundings of family and culture and being an immigrant and all of that. And so, okay, curly black hair, let's just look at it for what it is. How would I describe it in frequency? It's wild, it's intense, it's deep, it's permissive. Yeah, okay, that's my medicine. Got it. Like, boom, light went on. It was just changed forever. Right, that's me. Like, okay, I get to be here. I get to be here. Not me trying to be somebody else gets to be here, but me just as I am gets to be here. And I have everything I need to actually live the life that I'm destined to live and I'm called to live, my unique expression of creativity. And so the bane of my existence, this hair that I made my poor father literally iron the curls straight with a real iron, not a straightening iron, like a real iron, had literally given me the permission that I had been trying to give myself. Here it is, there we go. And so that changed everything. That changed everything. I came out of the closet with my story. I told my father, I told the internet, I told the world. And I started to teach women how to do that. I started to teach women how to see themselves free from story and how to come into celebration of it and how to come into visibility and actually have it be on purpose, not for nothing. And I've had the privilege now of working with hundreds of women around the world, mostly in America and Europe and Canada, but, making my way over to the Middle East still. And, really help them to move out of internal and external oppression through the work that came through me, through the Beauty Unleashed work that came through me. And I know that you don't have to have grown up in war-torn Iran to have experienced oppression or to tippy-toe around your full self-expression and your power. I know that. And I also know that with the incredible freedoms that we have here in the West, there is a responsibility. There is a responsibility to claim it, to learn how to use it, to how to embody the power, how to embody ourselves, our truth, our voice. There's a responsibility to that. Not everyone has it. There's this quote that is I think actually really overused, but that's okay. It's a Dalai Lama quote. And it's the world will be saved by the Western woman. Okay. Well, I think, for me at least, that's the 100th monkey factor of we are one body human, one body with the earth, and certainly one body women. And so the more that we get to set ourselves free, there is no way that that tidal wave is not going to reach to the corners of the earth where women have no voice, no choice, and a very little hope. We're not separate. That's why I'm standing here. So I have a gift for the ladies in the audience. If you got a gift bag, there is a card in there. And all of this mess has culminated into some good brilliance. And that's the work that I get to share with the women in the world, which is how to tap into your unique essence and how to create safety to stay in your body when you get visibility, because it might not feel safe, right? That's the whole Me Too movement, and time is up. How do we create our own safety and then take responsibility for wanting to be seen and heard? So there's a card in there, and if you put your name and email address, I will send you a gift that is part of what I teach. So it's an essence assessment and an embodiment practice for creating safety in the body to be fully self-expressed. I have a dream of taking my work to the Middle East and doing free teacher trainings in Dubai and allowing the women to take the work and pass it on. But for now, we're here. So we do the work.